Welcome back for this solo episode, Year in Review. I have not done a solo episode in a long time. So if you've been with us and subscribed way back in March of 2016, thank you. We're going to honor all of our guests in this segment, in this Year in Review segment. And also, I'm going to share the 3 biggest things that I learned in year 1 of Thriving Beyond. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Thriving Beyond, the podcast with stories of thriving through when the obstacles are far from few. Here's your host, whose own story has been featured in Chicken Soup for the Soul, Vidal Cisneros Jr.
Welcome back, Thrive Nation and Thriving Beyond listeners. I'm excited because today, in this solo episode segment, where we're going to highlight the year in review and also talk about 2017 and how 2017 is shaping up to be a phenomenal year for Thriving Beyond. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have started with us from March of 2016, thank you so much. And I would love your feedback. So if you could email me personally over at info@vidalcisnerosjr.com, I'd appreciate it. Or you can also email me over at vidalcisnerosjr@gmail.com. Email me, and in the subject line, just put feedback for Thriving Beyond in 2017, because I would absolutely love your feedback. And for listeners that are newer, thank you so much for subscribing or dropping us a rating and review. If you have done so, thank you so much. Gratitude and grateful for you. And the bottom line is that year 1 has been absolutely amazing here at Thriving Beyond. The guest lineup was nothing short of amazing. And a lot of the stories that were shared this first year in the editing process, a lot of the editing process I outsource, and some of it I do myself. But through the editing process, some of these stories, I have to be honest, I brought tears to my eyes. And it doesn't mean that, I'm not human. It means that these stories are absolutely amazing. And I'm so grateful for being the vessel, the vehicle to get these stories out there. So thank you, listeners, for subscribing and dropping us a rating and review, and also connecting with our guests. So I learned so much through this process in year 1 of Thriving Beyond. I learned about myself. I learned more so about myself as an interviewer and how to best relate to interviewees and guests. And what I had initially started in the beginning. So way back when, my initial intent with this Thriving Beyond podcast was to create connection between myself, featured guests, with the audience out there that's going through the struggle, with that one person that needs a breakthrough advice piece, or that person that needs to feel like they're not alone. And that is the premise of Thriving Beyond. So the ethos of Thriving Beyond is knowing that we're evolving. The evolution process within our journey of soul searching, if it's to that point, or our life storm that devastates us, whether it's business or personal, the ethos of Thriving Beyond is to propel through it, to push through it, but to evolve. Now, this evolutionary process of getting through your life storm or obstacle, whether it's business or personal, will mean there's going to have to be this level of growth, this level of thriving. And in that thriving, in that evolving, it means that we're going to have to pivot sometimes. And that's what I enjoy doing through this year 1, is pivoting with each and every episode. Maybe one episode resonated with a certain audience, and maybe it didn't. But regardless, it's sharing hope, sharing the fact that there's somebody else out there going through a struggle. Might not be similar, but they're going through a struggle. So that is the ethos of Thriving Beyond. And I thank you and commend you and honor every single guest that has been on this year 1 of Thriving Beyond. Thank you so much. I'm grateful for you. And now, as we sit in the eve of 2017, this is December 31st, 2016, when I'm recording right now. And 2016 has been nothing short of amazing. This platform has allowed myself to connect with some stellar entrepreneurs, consultants, coaches, elite level people that are doing big things, big things, meaning that they're best-selling authors. You know, I've been blessed to connect with best-selling authors, TEDx speakers, world-renowned consultants, professional coaches, people that have overcome incredible odds and share their empowering stories in year one of how they turn personal and business tragedies to personal and business triumphs. And that's the essence of Thriving Beyond. So I thank you for listening. And I want to highlight some of the guests and honor them. I remember in technically it's episode 2, but it's titled episode 3. And I did that to show that perfectionism is something that we all battle, and I battle it. So this is a pin for myself, however long it lasts in iTunes. It's a pin, it's a post-it for myself that I overcame perfectionism right there. I allowed imperfection to be okay, to live symbiotically with me. And I remember on that episode 2 with Bernie Shung, and Bernie was amazing. I learned through that episode that connection is everything. And connection meaning Skype connection, video connection, audio. It's all important, right? But the underlying fact is that you can't create this connection that you have when you both grow up knowing the same dwellings. Okay, so we grew up in the same city, and that's what episode 2 covered, is how Bernie and I had this connection, and she shared her story of adversity going through just this physical, personal trauma, and she was very transparent, and I enjoyed that episode very much so. And then as we go through the line, we've had other guests that I definitely would want to honor. And I want to make this short and sweet, but Mark Menard, amazing story, amazing man. And then Ted Rice as well. Ted Rice's story is very epic. His story was also featured on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And Ted Rice, his brother, and the tragic story that happened behind his brother is what really started his journey, and it was nothing short of amazing. And some of these episodes, like I mentioned, I edit them. Sometimes I outsource them, and sometimes I'm like in tears editing them myself. But what I've learned through being so close to the storyline and the adversity is that there's a framework. Every single story that was shared on year 1 of Thriving Beyond, there's a framework, there's a structure, but it's told a different way. It's told in everybody else's personality. And Natalie Culkins Roundtree, another amazing guest, 15-year alcoholic turned sober coach. Her story, nothing short of amazing as well, for lack of better words, because sometimes I'm left speechless with some of these stories. And that's why I say very few things on some of these episodes, because it's about the guest. It's about honoring their story. And Jacob Naragi, another good friend of mine, he has an amazing story as well. Local guy here in my area. And Phaedra Coing, America's Crisis Coach. She has such an incredible voice, incredible personality, and an amazing story as well. She's in it. She's in the thick of the storm. And Marcus Orozco, great personality. His story was more like Boys in the Hood, kind of, gangster to entrepreneur. Amazing way he told it as well. Very real world. And Greg Walker, the big dreamer, he retired at age 39 after he purchased all these Subway franchise businesses. And he is just one of those in-your-face personalities, very real world. And also Shelly Varela, first female firefighter, twice TEDx speaker. The list is on and on and on. There's just so many amazing guests. One guest was an actor on Days of Our Lives, and now he has a recurring role on actually this show that's called Pitch. It's on Fox, and his name is Andy Nilo, and he also has his own skincare line as well. His entrepreneur skills are elite level, and just so many guests. Brittany Brown, binge eating coach. She's just an amazing personality as well. that was probably one of the more popular listened to episodes was Brittany Brown. And it was because I know I added another layer of engagement to it. So before I recorded that episode, I remember I polled some of the audience within my social networks. And I learned that when you bring this next level of engagement to anything that you're doing before you do it, it actually creates this real world feel that somebody out there is involved in this content. It isn't just hey, I'm going to push record and this is just me being involved with my content. And that's why I really enjoy interviewing others and bringing them in as we share their content. And we just create this collaborative effort with our storytelling line. So I really enjoy this process of interviewing guests. I really do. And I've learned in year one that I need a lot of improvement with my skills. And there is this level of growth, right, that spikes at a certain point. And then there's this other level of, oh my gosh, do I have to publish this? You know, that perfectionist syndrome creeps in. But being transparent is the doorway, the opening of connection. And that's why I wanted to do this year in review segment and just highlight some of our amazing guests. Tuan was another amazing guest, 3-time TEDx speaker. Man, he has another eclectic personality. Just everybody that I interviewed, they have just beautiful personalities in their own storytelling way. Tanner Gears, another good friend of mine, a Paralympic. Man, he's doing big things. I just talked to him this week. And Tanner Gears, he's doing so many big things for the blind community. And I definitely commend him. And he's a big inspiration to myself. I love staying connected to a lot of the guests that I've interviewed because they not only inspire the Thrive Nation and Thrive and Beyond listeners, but they also inspire the host. There's no doubt about that. You know, there's just so many, the list goes on and on and on. You know, Jay Wong, another great just radio personality. He has that awesome voice and that awesome personality. He's always smiling. That's the one thing. And Jake Heilbrunn, younger guy, man, this guy has. He's also doing big things in the publishing world, and he's definitely inspiring me, no doubt. And then there's Thor Conklin, another great peak performer. Joe Bodges, interviewed him. He has such a huge audience. I learned so much just through interviewing him and being on his podcast as well, Relaunch, how I can be a better interviewer as well. And Erica De La Cruz, amazing story. From a homeless, living in her car, to celeb media hostess, to interviewing celebrities on the red carpet. Beautiful story. So there's just this smorgasbord of personalities that I interviewed, and I just really wanted to honor them today. You know, I recall my situation back when I was in my life storm, and I would have never imagined I'd create this podcast. You know, nothing is planned out. This is the whole behind the scenes stuff that I want you guys to see, is that a lot of this stuff is not scripted. Right now, this episode is not scripted. Okay, I just want you to know that I'm just I'm just off the hip right now, off the cuff. Nothing is scripted. And a lot of the episodes, there's a structure to them, but then there is this area to play in where I allow more creative juice and collaboration to flow. And what I've learned through this year one just guest segment process is less structure and more creativity. And I don't know if you guys listening out there would agree. Sometimes I want to let it flow. I want it to be a free-for-all, but we have to have a focus and a direction. So the Thriving Beyond ethos is that focus and is that direction. And same goes within our lives. You know, on a day-to-day, if we are just, inundated with one thing after another, and there is a lack of focus. As much as we want to be free flowing, it's hard to really see results that way. Sometimes we feel that yes, replying back to every email is, satisfying on a to-do list level. But what I learned through this process of creating these shows as a producer, as a host, as a sometimes editor and project manager, is that we get lost in the routine and we forget why we're doing it. So there were some days where it was just, I was going through the motions and I'm like, what's going on? I feel like I'm losing some of the creative process that I enjoy. So that's when I had to step back. So there's going to be some days when you get caught in the minutia of routine. And there's some days when you have to step back and just let it flow. So I try to find that balance in some of these episodes. So that's what I really learned from a production standpoint with Thriving Beyond the podcast, is that you have to create a level of awareness for where the show's going. And with engagement, with guest engagement, audience engagement, and sometimes doing other things like live streams, that's really what I want. I would love to incorporate more so in 2017. So that's one aspect, but please email me over at vidal@gmail.com for your feedback. I'd love to hear it. Or just shoot me anything. Shoot me a line and say, hey man, I like this episode, brother. Can I connect with so-and-so, or can I interview them on my podcast? And I'll make that connection. I'm absolutely always open to connecting other people to our guests. That's absolutely welcomed. And another thing that I really enjoyed through this process, speaking of connection, and I want to highlight the 3 big things that I learned through year 1. Okay. So number 1, connection. Connection is everything. So that process of involving another personality, collaborating with them, is amazing to me. And that level of connectivity is heightened viscerally when we see each other through video. That's another thing that I learned. Some of the episodes where they were kind of flat, there wasn't video stream there. And sometimes video stream is good. Sometimes there's a solid connection, and sometimes it's not allowed. The connection's poor, so we have to stick to audio. So those are the behind the scene hurdles that I've discovered. But I know what makes a good show, and that is doing the research, right? Doing the homework on the guest. There were a couple guests that came on, and it was their first time telling their story. And I knew somewhat what their story was going to encompass, and I didn't know at what level they were going to share it. But when they shared it to that next transparent level where they're just open with all the rawness of it, oh man, that was beautiful. That's what I enjoy, is when the guest is also going through this level of growth along with myself and the audience. So that's what makes this thing really symbiotic. And I really feel that 2017 for Thriving Beyond is going to take things to that next level with the art of storytelling. And that's something that I enjoy. And moving forward, there's a lot of things that are coming down in 2017 where I am going to create online workshops, online things that help people master the art of storytelling, as I'm an author and writer and speaker, so on and so forth. Writing and storytelling go hand in hand. So to highlight and recap, the number 1 thing I learned in year 1 of Thriving Beyond is connections. You want to have great connections via Skype, via video if possible, via audio. Man, there was some times when some of these episodes, we had to postpone them. For whatever reason, the microphone wasn't working. There's always going to be technical difficulties. But the real world level of connections is important. That's the winner chicken dinner of podcasting. That's why I love this podcasting community, is because the connections are everything. Having guests that come on and then we become friends, and there's just this deep connectivity when we both have similar stories, similar goals, similar things that we're after. And the main thing is that we're making a difference. So when people come on the podcast, they know that I'm real about making a difference, and I'm not just talking about it, I'm walking it as well. So that connection, that connection piece is very important, very crucial. And the second thing that I learned most importantly is that stories change lives. Wow. That is an understatement. Without stories, there would be no Thriving Beyond. So stories are the connecting piece to really creating a lasting legacy and lasting relationship. You know, when people know your story, they have so much insight on you cannot imagine. And that's how I feel. That's why I love hearing people's stories. And if your story is really powerful, please reach out to me. Let me know. As much as I want to keep it best-selling authors, world-renowned coaches and consultants, and elite-level speakers and TEDx speakers as well, stories are everything. So if you have an amazing story, please reach out to me. So getting back to that storytelling piece, if you understand your story, you're going to have another level of self-awareness that you cannot imagine. And that's what I enjoyed about some of these newer guests that came on, had never shared their personal tragedy or personal story of perseverance, and they did it for the first time. Wow, there's like another level of awareness after they tell it, which is super amazing. And then it also syncs us up and connects us to that next level as well. So there's a lot of little pieces going on. So that's really what I really enjoyed. Most importantly is hearing other people's stories and really getting the insight that I need to learn more about them and serve them the best way possible moving forward. So that's the second thing, is stories. Stories matter. Stories make a difference. Stories impact lives, and stories connect us to people on a whole nother level, a deeper level, deeper connection. And then the third thing is the evolution. Okay, so the evolution of Thriving Beyond was amazing in year one. Some episodes came flat. Some episodes really peaked and really were and some episodes were really dialed in on the ethos of Thriving Beyond, of persevering and growing and learning more about yourself through that process than anything, and creating this new identity shift for yourself. So that's the evolutionary process of Thriving Beyond year one that I learned, is that evolution is everything. You know, getting an episode up there is great, but evolving through it and having guests really evolve with, you know, the show is another thing too. So there's this evolutionary process through everything that we do here on Thriving Beyond. You know, in year one, I had never imagined that I'd have this many listeners and subscribers really dialed in on the show and wanting more of the guests to share their story and wanting more, I guess, added to their lives. And that's all I want to do, is add value to every listener's lives out there that right now needs some value. Like, give me some feedback, because as year one progressed, I learned that engagement's everything. So evolution, I really want this show to evolve. I don't want it to stay stale and just be guest segments, guests share the show. I really want that next piece. And that next piece of the evolutionary process for Thriving Beyond is engagement. So evolving into deeper engagement with our audience is the next level. And I want to incorporate, and I mentioned before, a live stream aspect to it where we're engaged. Maybe I'm interviewing a guest and I have you guys on live and I'm getting some feedback and you guys are listening. That would be awesome. And then also taking myself away from some of the editing process, because sometimes I outsource pieces that are longer and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I do some of the editing process myself. So incorporating an easier streamline where I don't edit anything and I keep it very minimalist. So keeping it minimalist is really the next evolutionary process for Thriving Beyond on a post-production level. And then also creating this next layer of engagement through live stream that I really want to incorporate for 2017. So the evolutionary process of Thriving Beyond is that next thing that I learned in 2016. And just to recap, So number one thing that I learned was connections are everything. Wi-Fi connect, everything, every level of connection has to be boom, like right on, dialed in. And it gets better each and every day when you connect on that deeper level through stories. And then the second thing is stories are powerful. Storylines and story form content is everything. I mean, this was already talked about in 2015. I was on the cusp of some of that in some of the conferences I was attending. But now story form is just really taking over everything. With Serial, this podcast that broke out, I believe in 2014, 2015, that really took over everything. So really creating like a mini series of content through story is super powerful right now. And the third thing that I learned is the evolution, letting Thrive and Beyond evolve, not choking the creative process and saying that, okay, the framework is that I'm going to interview and I'm going to ask XYZ question and then I'm going to go this, that I don't want to be stiff. So I know some episodes were a little stiff, a little stale, a little dry based on my questions. And I would rather keep it conversational, free flowing, but then stay within the ethos of Thrive and Beyond. So it doesn't become just this coffee shop conversation, but we're really dialed in on a focus, a directive, an objective of really sharing at least one good, powerful piece so that others out there that are going through something can have a solution or a result. And that's it. So just a recap, number one, connections. That's the main thing that I got out of 2016 were super powerful connections, keeping everything on my end connected and dialed in as best as possible. Secondly, story. Story's everything. Story connects us. Story is beautiful. And the third thing is evolution, letting this thing evolve, letting it take on whatever shape and form, because I don't know, and I have to let it evolve and not choke it in that process. And that's 2016 has been beautiful. So that is the recap. That is the year in review. And for 2017, like I mentioned, we're going to have more of live stream engagement, interaction. So just want to keep you guys up to date. And I want to thank every single one of you that has subscribed, given us a rating and review. You guys are beautiful. You guys are awesome people. And above all, be grateful in everything that you do. That's what I learned years ago. And I still keep that as my prime directive every day. Be grateful. And I'm so grateful for every single guest that came on and shared their story and gave us so many nuggets, just gave so much value and poured their heart and soul into creating an episode with myself on a collaborative effort to really engage our audience of Thrive listeners, Thrive Nation, Thrive and Beyond listeners, to learn something, whether it was on a minuscule level or it was on this grand, profound level. It all matters to us on this end of the table. And another thing that I want to be super transparent about is that, man, some episodes, they're going to fall flat. They will. And that's okay. I'm all right with that process. But I really want to create engagement. And I really want to create episodes of excellence where it's so, it isn't directed at guiding so much, but it's directed at like sharing a story and being like your best friend on this end. That's really what I've seen, and I've just going back and listening to some of the episodes is that I don't want to slam things down people's throats, like just a lesson. You know what I mean? Kind of like a pastor or a preacher. That's not what I want to come off as, but more as a best friend, somebody that's on the other line of the phone and just sharing and just having a conversation with you and saying, look, man, you're going to get through it. No matter what, you're going to get through it. Listen to this story. Listen to this, here, I got another call. Let's patch you in on three-way and listen to my friend here share a story, ask him questions. That's really the conversation I want to create versus more of a preacher, pastor, just slamming these moral lessons down your throat. Nah, it's not That's the wrong approach. So I caught myself on a couple episodes, like listening after the fact. And I was like, you know what? That's it though. That's the evolutionary process of Thriving Beyond, is that you have to fail before you really dial in on what you want the show to be. So in a collaborative effort, I really want to create a conversation with a good friend, which is you listening. And on another layer of connection, I really want you guys in on this process behind the scenes. So stay tuned. 2017 is shaping up to be a phenomenal year for so many things that are coming up. And I thank you guys for joining me on this journey. And as always, make it an exciting and great year in 2017, because you guys have so many gifts, so many talents. You don't know, you know what I'm saying? You don't know how many talents you have until you get out there and you test them. You get on that road, and when the rubber hits the road, that's really when you learn what your skills are made of. So don't be shy. Don't be scared to connect and reach out to me. You can email me over at vidalcisnerosjr@gmail.com or at info@vidalcisnerosjr.com. If anybody out there listening would also love and enjoy some of my content via newsletter, you can always go over to thrivingbeyondpodcast.com, hit the homepage button, and that will take you to a button that you can actually click. That will take you to a place where you can click and subscribe, and I will actually send some free newsletters, and also my ebook book bundle. And I'm going to start creating more free content in the newsletters as well. So I look forward to hearing from you guys, and I look forward to hearing about your 2017 and what goals are you guys out there reaching for, and what goals do you guys have in the upcoming year. So don't be shy, connect. Just stop by, say hi over at info@vidalcisnerosjr.com. And as always, keep going, keep growing, and keep thriving, because it's way better than just surviving. Catch you guys next time, and don't forget to leave us a rating and review, as we would love your feedback, and we'd love to hear how year one maybe impacted you and helped create some profound shifts in your life. Take care. Much love. Peace.
Thanks for listening. For recaps and to claim bonus gifts, head over to thrivingbeyondpodcast.com. Keep thriving.